What's going on, guys? Big Mike, D717, I'm back with here. So we are out in the garage. We're going to do a pretty big update since it's kind of the end of the season. So point season is over, unfortunately, due to me not performing how I wanted to at the last race. We finished 13th in the points for WDRA. Now, we did have our invite to the finals that were out in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, due to the health problems with my dog, we couldn't make it out to those finals. SBRA finals, we also had the invite to because we did half decent and were able to qualify for the final, but not, we weren't going to make any big push in the points for up there. But still, we were able to qualify for the finals in both classes. And unfortunately, we won't be able to go to either because of vacation timing and stuff like that with my dog and her health issues this year. But we still had a great season. The bike got very, very consistent, and I really cannot complain on how the season went. Now that the point season is over, we're going to work on getting the pink bike ready and getting that to the track, which I will talk about the updates here today on where the status of the pink bike is, but also we have updates on the turbo bike and getting that back out to hopefully do some testing. But the thumbnail may not lie. So we had a catastrophic or almost catastrophic failure on the turbo bike, which I will get to shortly. We're going to go through and explain the winter project for the channel, and we're going to do a little bit of a garage tech update, and then we're going to look at the pink bike. Now, if you want to see the catastrophic failure, if you really want to, fast forward, but if you want to keep in touch on what's going on in the garage and where we were at for hitting the beginning of the off season, stay tuned. We'll get to the turbo bike momentarily, but we're going to go over start off with the winter project, which is right behind me. We're going to go over the shop tech, which is also back behind me. And we're also going to look at the pink bike, which is only for right now because I was waiting on parts over the weekend. This original video I had filmed, I must have had something smudged on my camera, and it was so blurry looking back at it that I couldn't even use any of the footage. So this is me re-recording it almost a week later than I wanted to. But we have a lot of updates on some things, and I just wanted to give you guys this video, and hopefully we'll be at the track in the next video. But let's get rolling. I'm not going to move very far because you guys can kind of see it now. So the winter project was getting my first cafe build. Now, we had the opportunity to cafe build a while ago, but it was more of Mickey's bike than mine. So we couldn't do as many modifications. We kind of had to do it based on Mickey's schedule. Well, he didn't keep the bike long enough for us to get a lot of content out of it. And I wasn't going to make him keep the bike just so I can get content for the channel. So we ended up trading my buddy Payson at Bachman's Garage. You can check him out on YouTube as well. I'll try to put his name in here somewhere. But we traded him my yellow Honda 250EX. He was looking for a four-wheeler for his girlfriend who has a spinal disorder, but she can't ride dirt bikes or anything like that, so he wanted a four-wheeler. So I ended up trading him for this because I knew what this bike was and what it could be. So this is a 1974 Yamaha RD250. These are very bare bones bikes as is. So that's one reason why I liked it, but also it's different because these are 250 two-stroke parallel twin motors. So they're basically downsized Banshee motors, and it's a street bike. So these used to have oil injection. You put regular gas in them, you just fill up the oil tank, go fill up at the gas station if you want. So for me, this might be a little bit of a pain because I'll have to pre-mix because Payson did do the oil injection delete because the tank that he had was very bad, but also these bikes were known for that gear going out. So it would kill the oil injection and typically fry the motor. So Payson figured, do the delete while you can. Since he had the motor apart, this motor is almost brand new carburetors. Well, not brand new carburetors, but all the internals, it's rejetted, new reeds, It's got an FMF boost tube in it. It's got a new top end, new pistons. The rods and everything else was good, but he went over the transmission. The entire motor has been gone over, so we know that the motor itself is healthy. We just need to get it running. But we also need to finish it and make it a streetable cafe racer like I want to build. And I figured that'd be a nice thing to do over the winter to keep us with content, keep me with you guys, but also to be something a little bit different than just constantly being like Busa this, Busa that, when we can kind of just mingle them in with each other. So this bike is our channel project. I have everything here except for I do want to look at a couple little seat options because I do have the original seat. The original seat's like 4 or 5 inches thick. And I want to get one of the low pro ones because of me being taller. I don't want to be up on the bike and the handlebars are like down at my knees. So it looks like I'm riding like a kid's bicycle or something. So we're going to play around with it a little bit, but I figured this would be a nice winter project for the channel, something different and something that you don't really see every day, because I've gone out to Cars and Coffees with some kind of crazy builds, and old school motorcycles really aren't one of them. I did see an old school two-stroke Suzuki not that long ago, which was basically like the way early predecessor of the GSXR series from Suzuki, but it was an old two-stroke. It was pretty cool to see. The man that ran it was really cool. Got to talk to him for a bit, but again, it's something that I've only seen one two-stroke street bike from that era. So when I had the chance to get one and build one, I kind of jumped on it. So this is going to be the winter project. Stay tuned for that, guys. It will be awesome. It's going to be even better when it's running. Well, I'm going to shift to this side and show you the garage tech. So we picked up, again, from Payson, because his brother was actually trying to get rid of it, is a Miller 165 diversion TIG welder. So I've always liked fabrication honestly, ever since I got out of school. I wanted to go and do fabrication, but with my family's background and also me liking what I do, I went into construction. I have a degree in architecture, and I wanted to go for fabrication as a secondary because I did go to a trade school here in PA and get something that would be a fabrication degree or some kind of welding certificate, but I never got the chance. So I figured, why not take up the opportunity, get a welder that was a really good deal, but also a very good brand, and just give it a shot. We'll see if we can make any brackets for the bikes, any custom fabrication, maybe too, because I need to do it for the turbo bike, is a catch can. I'd love to do a swing arm fuel cell, or even an under tank fuel cell. So all I have to do is just get a shell and have no tank attached to that shell. Because Brian Snyder up at Beaver has one for his Gen 1 Busa, and it's actually pretty cool. He just lifts the tank shell up. It has like a 1 gallon cell or maybe a half gallon cell that sits right at the, I guess the seat rail, or like right where you do a cut rail, like the tank bracket. It just sits right there. So it's a really slick setup. I like it, and I wouldn't mind trying to design something like that. And for the turbo bike, I could simplify a lot of it if I could do the fuel pump and the regulator just all attached to this, and it would make it very centralized. It would put the weight further towards the front of the motor, even though it's really behind the motor, but it puts the weight more towards the front tire to help with any kind of wheeling stuff. But I figured this would be a very good upgrade for the shop. Hopefully once the RD project is done, I can rearrange the shop and have kind of a fabrication area, have the work area, and then have kind of a free roam for the rest of the shop and play around with storage options and things like that. But I figured that would be a good upgrade for the shop. We're going to get into some fabrication over winter. Hopefully it's something that I can stick to, we get good at, and who knows, if I make any parts that seem usable to you guys that watch my videos, is maybe I can produce a couple parts for you guys as well. And again, if they're useful, let me know, and we'll see if maybe I can make a couple of them. But that's the winter project, the shop tech. Now let's roll into some bike stuff and check out Pinky and the turbo bike. All right, guys. Well, the big update for Pinky. So we needed to hook up the line for the slave cylinder. We needed a slave cylinder. We needed a slave brace. I was going to do the water pump and radiator, but I don't really have the money or the time to hopefully get this thing to the track this year. We did need a chain as well, but part of the failure on the turbo bike kind of helped us with the chain, because the turbo bike's probably not going to be at the track for the rest of the year. I think it's down for the remainder, so I might yank the chain off that since it's relatively new, put it on this bike so we can get it running and get it to the track at least to test it this year. If not, maybe we can go to Mexico. I have no idea, but without a radiator, still going to be trailered to some fashion. But the stuff that we were waiting for on the pink bike to get done is we have the wheelbase finally set up on this thing. So Bill Venturo that we race with has the Spider-Man bar bike. So that bike, again, Bill's stupid fast with that thing. The new motor he just put in it about 2 weeks ago, he was testing down at our proving ground, Cecil County, and that bike was running 7/8 all motor without, I mean, that bike is set up for spray. So, I mean, with no spray running 7/8, with spray, that thing's got to be 7.5s. I mean, he is, I think, third in Top Sportsman at XDA this year, and Top Sportsman are the fastest 32 out of the Pro ET riders. And Bill was champion last year, I believe, and he is pretty close to being champion again this year. But we have the swing arm. We did manage to get a 10 to 14 over arm from a friend of Bill's that actually just switched over to bar bikes. So of course he had street bike parts for sale, and one of them happened to be this swing arm. So we have the pink bike set up at roughly a 70-inch wheelbase. I have to double check the OEM wheelbase on these bikes. I think they were 56 inches or 58. So the bike could be, this could be a 70 to a 72-inch wheelbase roughly. Then that snowballs into the turbo bike, which would have been at a 72 to 76 if I max out that arm. So pretty much we have all the parts in. The only thing I have to do is I have to get another sleeve for the slave brace, but the new slave cylinder is on. The new sprocket cover is, or not new sprocket cover, but the front sprocket cover is on. And I just have to get the slave brace hooked up because there are heavy springs in the clutch. So I know that it's gonna stress that case, and I'd rather reinforce it than anything. But I have to do a new sleeve that's just a little bit longer because of not having a water pump, because this basically eliminates the bolt for the water pump. You put this sleeve against the water pump, this sleeve or this bolt into the brace support, and then you bolt everything fast. But since we don't have a water pump, I need to make up about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch difference, which I found a sleeve that I can modify to make that work. So the turbo bike is literally just, I needed to get a couple bolts from the store for the pink bike, or for the sprocket cover to get that going, but I picked those up. I'm going to be finishing that tonight. And then the other question I have for you guys is a oil recommendation. I wanted to run the 1540 that I run in the turbo bike, but I'm not sure with this being all motor if I really have to, or if I can, I will, because that way it'll be a little bit easier on me to keep the same oil all the time and just know that as long as I have at least 3 gallons or 2 gallons, that I'll be fine for at least a month for both bikes. So yeah, she's pretty close to being done. I mean, this thing is, I like this bike. I was honestly supposed to rob parts off of it and sell it as a roller and then keep the motor for a build, but I really like this bike and I want to see what it can do. I mean, if it can be consistent, I mean, it might need a Gen 2 clutch, and that might be about it. And then maybe I'll do the radiator and stuff just so I can do a pass and bring it back to the trailer without having to get pushed. But I like how this bike turned out. The R1 wheels, the Gen 1 fork, or the Gen 2 forks with the front fender, which carbon with this pink actually looks amazing. But we are very, very close to having this bike complete and at the track. So stay tuned for that. So let's get on to the turbo bike, and we'll get to the issues that we have. All right, guys, well, as you can see, there is no swing arm anymore. So the clip that I'm going to show you guys was pretty much what happened. This was not what I had in mind to finish off the season, but the biggest thing with this was another deal that I worked out with Bill Venturo with the swing arm. When I went to go pick up the swing arm, I had the opportunity to get a shock. So Bill had this Penske double adjustable ultralight shock, and we were going to test it on the turbo bike. So I tore into this bike, got the old shock out, and was starting to get everything set up. So as I was doing that, I got the shock in, I went to go tighten all the bolts down, and check what happened. We had kind of a parts failure that I didn't know about, and I just caught it, which luckily I did now, because I have a feeling that the new shock and trying to tweak the suspension and getting a little bit more launch out of the turbo bike, you guys aren't really going to believe what happened. The part that I'm glad I caught is this is slowly starting to crack and come apart. So I'm in the process of trying to see, which I did notice when I was taking the lowering links off, that this does have a little bit of flex when you really kind of torque it. So I'm going to talk with a couple buddies and see if they think this is weldable, which it should be. It's chromoly. That was not how I plan on ending off the year for the turbo bike, because this time of the year is usually when we start doing personal bests and trying to just make the bike as fast as humanly possible, and just doing testing and just getting quicker and quicker and quicker and saving those settings to run into the next year. But unfortunately, with that cracked swing arm, I'm glad that I caught it when I did, because with us cranking it up and trying to make it go faster, I don't know what would have happened if that would have been a complete catastrophic failure at the track, because if that would have separated or ripped that joint off the swing arm or cracked it to where it was able to let the spring drop completely, that would have been a broken tail, it would have been a broken subframe, possible injury for me, probably a destroyed wheel. The swing arm would be completely toast. So hopefully catching it the way that I did and when I did, we can get it fixed. My buddy is looking at it now to see what can be done with it, and if everything does check out that it's more than likely it is repairable, is how we can reinforce it so this doesn't happen again. And then once that is done, hopefully I can get it powder coated, or at least try to paint it in-house to where it'll be ready to roll for next season. But not how I plan to end it for the turbo bike this year. Everything was going so good with getting the bike consistent. It's running its fast, it's 8th miles now. It was running its fast 8th mile an hour. We were getting very close to running a personal best in the 8th in general, which to me would have been all we would have needed. Probably was to go down a tooth in the rear and then bump up the 2-step just a little bit to get more out of the hole. Because I did notice that the bike, when it would launch, it would the RPMs would go up, they would hold, and then they would crank up again once the clutch really got engaged. So if we can get those RPMs to keep flowing up, the bike will launch a lot harder, and we can hopefully get the 60 foot lower. But with all this happening, unfortunately, we won't get to test that unless I get the arm back in a very, very short time span. I know Garrett can be busy, and I know he had more projects, so I told him just as soon as you can, look at it, try to help me fix it, and hopefully I can get back out again. If not, so be it. We have the pink bike almost ready to go, so we'll be able to get a little bit different testing and see what happens with the pink bike. So as always, guys, I hope you liked this video. I know it wasn't very eventful, but it was, to me, informative to keep you guys up to date on what's going on with the channel and anything like that. So yeah, we're just going to end it there. As always, like I said, hope you guys liked the video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Anything more about the bikes, more about the channel, anything like that, check the description, as well as drop those comments down below. Hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell for notifications on the newest uploads that will be coming out. And as always, guys, ride safe, ride smart, always wear a helmet. See ya.